enjoy the play of Richard III, just as in real life. As it has a villain, of course it has a hero as well, as the true history does reflect. Richard, of course, is deposed, and thus begins the long line of the Tudors and the Henrys, beginning with Henry VII, which is in the character of the Duke of Richmond here in this play. And you're about to hear an inspirational speech from Richmond, who has come to inspire you all to take up the charge, to fight for what you know is right, and to destroy evil things of this world. Evil like what you just heard. Evil like Richard III. So my friends, help me to welcome from the same play from Colley Cibber, the great hero in the character of Richmond.
Thus far into the bowels of the land have we marched on without impediment. Gloucester, the bloody devouring boar, whose ravenous appetite has spoiled your fields, laid this rich country waste, and rudely cropped its ripened hopes of fair prosperity, is now even in the center of the isle, near to the town of Leicester. From Tamworth thither is but one day's march. And here receive we from our father Stanley words of comfort and encouragement that will help and animate our cause, on which let's cheerly on, courageous friends, to reap the harvest of a lasting peace, or fame more lasting from a well-fought war. My words have fire, they warm you men, who looked before but cold, disheartened by the unequal numbers of the foe. Remember, thrice is he armed that has his cause just, and he but naked, though locked in steel, whose conscience with injustice is corrupted. Richard has no friends, but what are such through fear, and we no foes, but what are such to heaven. And doubt not, heaven is for us. Advance your standards, draw your willing sword, sound drum and trumpet, boldly and cheerfully. The word is St. George, Richmond, and victory!
Bravo! Bravo!
No, I shall not, yes. Of course, in the end, Richard is deposed, and as Mr. Presley did say, the line of the new family of England, of course, comes to power. Now, you've seen a bit of tragedy, or history, as it were. Of course, what would Shakespeare be without comedy as well? And certainly music, something that you may not be as familiar with, but certainly music was part of Shakespeare in this time as well. To tell you a bit more about this, please welcome Mr. Ziarko back to the stage.
Of course, music is used throughout Shakespeare's works. He writes music into many of his pieces, and in fact, one that might be known even more than any others for that is The Tempest. The Tempest is a great one of his works, a little bit later on in his life, and it goes through throughout the play of music. These words of magic are all interwoven. But that play has a very specific tie-in here with Virginia itself. We've talked about all the ways that the 18th century has changed Shakespeare and affected Shakespeare. Well, let us go back a little bit further and talk about perhaps how Virginia itself affected Shakespeare's own writing back in the 17th century. For the play The Tempest is written about a year after an account is published in London. This is an account of a man who is involved in a shipwreck on 3 ships that were on their way to Jamestown. These ships wrecked, and over the next year, the crews of those ships do their best to rebuild, and they rebuild 2 ships to deliver supplies here to the colony of Jamestown. And just as the people of Jamestown are about to give up, they think all hope is lost, you see 2 ships coming down the river, the Deliverance and the Patience. These are 2 reconstructed ships from that shipwreck on a lonely island out there, and they saved the colony of Virginia. Well, this account is published, and it is not a full year after that Shakespeare himself writes an account of, or writes a play of a shipwreck on a magical island out in nowhere. So we can't say directly that Shakespeare, for he never writes that he read this account, we do think that the timing is rather appropriate to see some influence of Virginia affecting Shakespeare himself in one of his greatest plays. But if we enjoy Shakespeare, we enjoy him here in our modern time, perhaps most for his comedies. And so to give you something to laugh at, something a bit lighter, please join me in welcoming Mr. Presley forward to set up some comedy.